The day Harmon told her to mop up the blood near the entrance, without looking up from his clipboard, without saying please, without acknowledging that she had already spotted something far more urgent than a smear on the floor, was the day Tess Callahan decided she would never correct him. Not yet. She had learned, a long time ago, that the moment you tell someone what you are, you lose something, some edge, some space. She had learned it the way most people learn things that stick forever. Through blood and noise and a night in the Kunar province when the only person who knew what she was capable of was a 22-year-old private named Drummond, who had held her jacket while she sutured his own femoral artery by the light of a dying flashlight. He made it home. She didn't talk about it, so when Harmon flicked his hand toward the entrance and said, "Get that cleaned up before Dr. Belton's rounds," she picked up the mop and walked toward the doors. St. Clement's Urgent Care wasn't a hospital. Anyone who worked there long enough knew that. It had 4 exam rooms, 2 nurses, 1 physician on rotation, and an X-ray machine that had been calibrated wrong for 6 months before anyone noticed. It sat on the edge of a town called Millhaven, population 12,000, wedged between a dollar store and a tax preparation office in a strip mall that smelled like old carpet no matter what season it was. People came here for ear infections and minor lacerations and blood pressure checks. Occasionally, someone came in who was genuinely sick, and those people were stabilized, then transferred to the county hospital 40 minutes north. It was not the kind of place where things went wrong, until the day they did. Tess had been working the maintenance shift for 11 weeks. She had taken the job because it was quiet and it was local and it required nothing from her except showing up, which was sometimes, on the bad mornings, the hardest thing in the world. She had moved to Millhaven after her discharge because she didn't know anyone there, and that was the point. She rented a room above a hardware store. She cooked eggs in a single pan. She ran 5 miles every morning before anyone else was awake. Nobody knew her here. That was the arrangement she had made with herself. Dr. Belton arrived at 7:15, same as every Thursday. She didn't acknowledge Tess either, but that was different. Belton ignored everyone who wasn't a patient or another physician. It wasn't personal. It was just the particular species of arrogance that came from being the only doctor in a 12,000-person town. She was competent. Tess had watched her work enough times quietly from hallways to know that much. She handled what she was trained to handle. The man in exam room 3 was something else. Tess noticed him at 7:40. She was replacing the paper towel roll in the hallway bathroom, the door propped open with her supply cart, when she saw the curtain to room 3 pushed halfway back and a man sitting on the edge of the exam table with his arms resting on his knees, head forward in the posture of someone trying very hard not to pass out. She knew that posture. She stood still for a moment and watched him. He was maybe 55, heavyset, wearing a flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled to the elbows. His color was wrong. Not pale, gray. There's a difference, and most people don't know it. Pale means anxious, means cold, means something minor. Gray means the body is redirecting. Gray means something is being prioritized that shouldn't need to be prioritized. His neck looked wrong too. She left the supply cart and walked to the nurse's station where a woman named Garfield was entering something into the computer. "The man in 3, Tess said. "How long has he been waiting?" Garfield didn't look up. "He checked in about 40 minutes ago. Chief complaint is indigestion. Is Belton seeing him soon?" "She's finishing with room 1. Tess nodded. She walked back down the hall and stood just outside the curtain of room 3. The man looked up when he heard her, and up close it was worse. His lips had a faint bluish undertone she couldn't ignore. His breathing was controlled, too controlled, the kind of breathing people do when they're managing pain and don't want anyone to know. "Sir," she said, "I'm going to get your nurse." "I'm fine," he said. "Just some heartburn. My wife made me come in. I understand. I'm still going to get her." She found Garfield again. "Room 3 needs to be moved up. I think he's in trouble." Garfield finally particular one, measuring and dismissing simultaneously. "He said it was indigestion. His color is wrong. He's managing pain. His neck veins look elevated." A pause. "You're the janitor." Tess kept her voice flat. "I know what I'm looking at. I'll pass it along to Dr. Belton when she's... Now, please." She could see the calculation happening. The slight tightening around Garfield's eyes. The decision being made about whether to be annoyed or whether to listen. Garfield picked annoyed. "I'll let her know," she said, and turned back to the computer. Tess went back into the hallway. She stood there for 3 seconds. Then she walked to the supply closet at the far end of the hall, where she kept her cart, and she stood with her back against the shelving and pressed her palms flat against the cool metal and breathed. She counted to 8. She had a system. She had built the system over 2 years of very deliberate work with a counselor in Portland who specialized in treating combat medics. A woman who had said something once that Tess had written down and carried in her wallet until the paper disintegrated. The body remembers what happened. The work is teaching the mind to choose what it does next. The fluorescent light above her hummed. She chose. She walked back to the nurse's station. Garfield was still at the computer. Through the partially open door of room 1, she could hear Belton's voice, calm, unhurried, asking about medication history. Tess turned around, walked directly to room 3, and pulled back the curtain. "Sir, I need your name." He blinked at her. "Rourke! Ed Rourke! Ed, I need you to lie back for me. Can you do that?" He started to argue, then seemed to think better of it. She helped him back and pulled the exam table's paper, covering flat as she went. Habit so deep it didn't require thought. She looked at his neck. The jugular distension was visible, more pronounced now than it had been 10 minutes ago. She put 2 fingers to his wrist. His pulse was rapid, irregular. He was sweating now, though the room was cold. "My chest feels heavy," he said, and it was the first time he'd admitted anything. "I know," she said. "Stay with me." She was already moving to the supply cabinet on the wall. These rooms were stocked for minor care, bandages, irrigation supplies, basic monitoring equipment. There was an AED in the hallway. She had noted it on day 1, the way she noted all exit routes and all emergency equipment in every building she entered. Without thinking it was strange, because it was just something she did. She had already known where the crash cart was. 3rd room on the left, behind the nurse's station. She'd seen it the first week when the wheels had needed fixing, and she'd been asked to move it. It was a light crash cart, limited, but it had a defibrillator, and it had an oxygen line, and it had enough. She hit the call button on the wall and heard it ping at the nurse's station. 30 seconds later, Garfield appeared in the doorway. Whatever she had been prepared to say, she didn't say it. She took one look at the man on the table and her whole face changed. "Get Belton," Tess said, "and call 911. Don't call 911 instead of getting Belton. Get Belton first." Garfield was already gone. Tess turned back to Ed Rourke. She took his hand just for a second. because she knew from experience that the moment someone realizes they're in trouble is the moment they need to feel another person's presence more than they need anything else. "Listen to me," she said. "You're in a medical facility. We have people coming right now. I need you to focus on breathing slowly. Can you do that?" "What's slowly in through the nose? Don't talk." He nodded. She had her fingers on his pulse again. She was cataloging rate, rhythm, the quality of what she was feeling against his wrist, the color at his lips, the effort of each breath. She was doing the thing she had spent years trying not to do, and it came back with the ease of handwriting, the ease of riding a bike, the ease of every skill that was learned in repetition and urgency and never really left. Belton came in fast. To her credit, that was the thing Tess noted first. She came fast, which meant Garfield had communicated something useful. "What do we have?" Belton said, and she directed it at Tess without thinking, without stopping to register who she was talking to. 55-year-old male. Chief complaint initially presented as indigestion, 45 minutes in waiting. Current presentation, diaphoresis, chest heaviness, elevated JVD, irregular rapid pulse. No reported history on file yet. I didn't ask. Belton was already at the table, stethoscope out. A silence of about 4 seconds while she listened. Then she looked up. Not at Ed Rourke. At Tess. "Who are you?" "I'm the janitor," Tess said. "The crash cart is behind the nurse's station. I'll get it." She was out the door before Belton could answer. The ambulance arrived in 11 minutes, which was fast for Millhaven. Tess counted the minutes from the end of the hallway, where Harmon had found her and told her she needed to clear the entrance for the incoming unit, which was the job she had been given, so she did it. She moved her supply cart. She propped the door. She watched the paramedics come through. Belton had stabilized him. Ed Rourke's color had improved. His breathing was still labored but controlled. As they moved him onto the gurney, he turned his head and looked around, and his eyes found Tess where she stood beside the door with her cart. "Indigestion," he said, and laughed once, a short, pained sound. "Classic presentation," she said. "You did good." They took him out. Harmon appeared behind her and said, "There's a spill in the hallway near 2. "I'll get it," she said. It was Belton who found her later. Tess was restocking the supply closet when she heard footsteps and turned to find the doctor, standing in the doorway with her arms crossed, and her stethoscopes still around her neck, and the particular look on her face of someone who has been trying to decide something for the last 2 hours. "Your name," Belton said. "Callahan." Before this. Tess set down the box of gloves she was holding. She had known this conversation was coming. She had always known it would come eventually in whatever form it took, the moment someone looked close enough. "Army," she said. 18 Delta, combat medical sergeant. 2 tours. Belton didn't say anything for a moment. "Kunar Province," Tess added, because she didn't know why, because the morning had cracked something open and she was tired of being entirely sealed. "And later Kandahar. I got out 4 years ago." Belton uncrossed her arms. She leaned against the doorframe in a way that made her look, for the first time since Tess had seen her, not like the authority in the room. "Just a person. What you told me in there," she said. "JVD, diaphoresis. Irregular presentation. I know what I saw. I know you do." A pause. "He had a STEMI. Caught it early enough. He's going to make it." Tess nodded. She wasn't surprised. She had known that if they moved fast enough, if they called 911 when she told them to call 911, if Belton came in and listened, if all of those things lined up, Ed Rourke would make it. She had done the math in the hallway with her palms on the shelving, counting to 8, and that was part of why she had gone back. Garfield said you told her he was in trouble. Belton paused. She didn't listen. She's not trained for this. She was following what the intake said. You weren't following what the intake said. No. Belton looked at her for a long moment. Why are you here? Doing this? Tess picked the box of gloves back up and placed it on the shelf. She thought about how to answer that. And the honest answer was complicated and involved a night in Kandahar that she was not going to describe in a supply closet in a strip mall in Millhaven. And it also involved Portland and the counselor and the slip of paper that had dissolved in her wallet and the 5-mile runs before dawn and the room above the hardware store and the eggs in the single pan. I needed quiet for a while, she finally said. Belton was quiet herself for a moment. How long have you been out? 4 years. Are you? She stopped. Started again more carefully. Are you getting what you need? Tess looked at her. It was a careful question, the kind of question you asked when you weren't sure if you had the right to ask anything at all. I'm working on it, Tess said. Belton nodded. She didn't push. Tess gave her credit for that too. I want to add you to the emergency response protocol, Belton said. If something comes in and I need another set of hands, trained hands, I want to know you're available. I'm the janitor. You're an 18 Delta with 2 combat tours who just helped me catch a STEMI before it killed a man in my exam room. Belton's voice was steady. We can call you whatever you want. I just want the number. Tess thought about it. She thought about the feel of Ed Rourke's wrist under her fingers, the familiar cataloging, the way her mind had gone quiet and clear the moment she was needed, the way it always had, the way it did even now after everything, the operational calm that had never fully left her. That had always been the truest thing about her, even when she wasn't sure what else was. She thought about Drummond, holding her jacket in the dark. Okay, she said. Belton nodded once. Professional. I'll let HR know you're being cross-trained. She left. Tess stood in the supply closet for a while after she was gone, not moving. Just standing in the quiet with the smell of disinfectant and cardboard around her, and the hum of the fluorescent light above, and she felt something loosen in her chest that she hadn't known was tight, not gone, not fixed. Those weren't words she used anymore, just loosened. She called her sister that evening from the room above the hardware store. Her sister was in Tucson and they talked every few weeks, the calls usually short and careful, circling around the things neither of them quite knew how to say directly. Her sister said, "How was your day?" And Tess, who had not told anyone about the day, who had not told anyone about any of the days, sat on the edge of her bed and looked at the window and thought about Ed Rourke laughing in the hallway with his gray face and his labored breath, and about the way the operational calm had come back like water filling a shape it already knew. It was okay, she said. A pause. Yeah, her sister said. She knew Tess well enough to hear the difference. Yeah, Tess said. I think it might have actually been okay. Outside, Millhaven was settling into dark. Somewhere on the street below a car passed, its headlights moving across the ceiling. And Tess watched the light travel across the room and thought about a lot of things. And after a while, she stopped thinking and just let herself be in the room, in the quiet, with the ordinary sound of a small town at the end of an ordinary day. She had done one thing today that mattered. She thought that might be enough. She thought maybe it was a beginning,